Big news in the Sun Belt today is Jordan Brown has committed to Louisiana. The transfer from Arizona had 9 points per game and 5 rebounds per game last season. Former 5-star recruit, former McDonald's All-American, former top 10 recruit. He is a big-time addition for Louisiana, and he is going to be scary good in the Sun Belt alongside Theo Akuba. That is one of the best big men duos in the entire country. Akuba averaged 11 and 9 last year while adding 3 blocks per game, was the conference defensive player of the year. Well, you also have Cedric Russell, who could return for his extra year of eligibility, averaged 17 points per game last season, was a leading scorer for the Ragin Cajuns. If he returns, he'll be the conference preseason player of the year. They do lose Malik Wilson, who transferred to Texas Tech, but they returned most of the roster from last season and add, one of the best transfers currently available on the board. Got Jordan Brown over Texas, which is a national championship contender. And then you had Greg Williams from St. John's, a high-level defender who can really shoot the ball from outside, 44% last season, averaged 9.5 points per game. And Jalen Dalcourt, who also averaged 9 points per game, shot 35% from outside for San Jose State, had 23 points in a narrow 1-point loss against Boise State in his first game of the season after not being eligible or dealing with an injury, one of the two, before early in the season. He didn't get eligible until conference play. So that's going to be something to watch next year, how this team is able to go together, because the talent is certainly there. You have that starting five that I just mentioned with Cedric Russell. You have Jalen Dalcourt. You have Greg Williams. And then you have the two really good big men, Jordan Brown and Theo Akuba. Off the bench, you can't forget about a guy like Jacoby Gordon, the transfer from California. He had 4.6 points per game last season in his first year in Lafayette. He's going to be a solid piece off the bench next season. And then another name that could be the real X factor for this team is Julian. He averaged 4 points per game last season, but 7 points per game last season. But he was dealing with a knee injury, which sidelined him his freshman year also, which he got a medical redshirt for. But 2 knee injuries in a row that sidelined Julian. If he can be healthy, he'll be a really good player. But he just has to stay on the floor. I think this could be the year where he finally stays on the floor consistently and is able to break out, because the talent is there. Hopefully, best wishes to him. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy. That's just a tough part of, athletics at all levels, You just never know when your body's going to, fail you. And I think that Julian's going to ultimately stay healthy this season, hopefully, and he's going to be a very good piece for Louisiana. But when looking at this team, this is a team that should be the favorites in the Sun Belt. You look at a team like South Alabama, they've really retooled their roster like they do every year. They lost Michael Flowers. They lost Tyreek LaCure. They lost a lot of pieces from last year, but they had Sam Iorio too. But they had Greg Parham from BMI. That's a good addition. Charles Manning, Lance Thomas, Deontay Smith, Marshall Curing. Those are some of the just big-time additions that South Alabama's made. But their biggest weakness last year was their interior defense against big men. And that could be an issue again. Marshall Curing is one of the best JUCO shot blockers in the country, but they need more than just one guy. That's what it's going to come down to. I think that Louisiana is just a dangerous matchup against South Alabama. Because South Alabama, if they're hitting their threes, they can beat just about anybody in the Sun Belt, at least. I'm not going to say in the country. But they have to find a way to stop big men. And I don't think that's going to happen against Louisiana, because they have a really good front court duo with Jordan Brown and with Theo Akuba, who could be a future NBA player. I wouldn't be surprised to see Akuba be a second-round pick who really rises up draft boards in 2022. If he has another really good season this year, which I envision he will. But like I said, this is a really good roster. Julian, I think he'll be healthy this season, hopefully, and he could really rise onto the scene to be the X factor for the Ragin Cajuns next season. Coach Marlin has a really good squad. I had to make a quick video about this because, I don't know how many people actually pay attention to the Sun Belt, but I know that Louisiana has a good amount of fans. I know that Sun Belt fans are pretty dedicated. And, this is a big addition. Like, if Jordan Brown goes to Texas, this is a much bigger story, I feel like. But Jordan Brown going to Louisiana over Texas just shows how good of a job Louisiana's staff has done at recruiting this offseason. They've added 2 hometown kids with Greg Williams and Jalen Dalcourt, both from Lafayette. And they had Jordan Brown, whose father went to Louisiana. So they've done a really good job utilizing the connections that players have had to the program to get guys to go home or just, want to follow in their father's footsteps in the case of Jordan Brown. That's just an incredible recruiting job. Getting a guy to go to Louisiana over Texas in any scenario is huge because even though Texas hasn't won a national championship at all recently and they've struggled recently, that's still Texas. That's a Big 12 school. To get a player to go to the Sun Belt instead of the Big 12 is a pretty, wild thing to have happen, but it's awesome for Louisiana. But here's one thing to keep an eye on. Jordan Brown already set out a season after his transfer from Nevada to Arizona, but it's going to be interesting to see how the NCAA handles it because he's transferring again, and technically with the one-time transfer waiver, he is not eligible next season. But I think with all the Arizona situation going on, Sean Miller getting fired, I think ultimately he'll probably be able to play next season. I would say that's more than likely. So we'll see what ends up occurring, but Jordan Brown is going to be such a scary piece in the Sun Belt next season. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and until next time, have a good one.